How's it going, everybody? This one's a bit of a ramble. I apologize in advance for that, but there will be timestamps so you can jump to the chapters that you want to see. And I never really do this at the beginning of my videos, but consider subscribing. If you get through most of it, you enjoy, you want to stick around, would love to have some new faces on the channel. So anyway, with that, enjoy the video. How is it going, everybody? My name is DeMarco, and if you know this channel or you know me at all, then you understand I'm a massive Elder Scrolls fan. And so the wait for the Elder Scrolls 6, it's pretty painful.
It hurts. It physically hurts me.
Not literally, I'm being hyperbolic, of course, but I think it's much longer than anybody realistically would have hoped for, especially following the success that was Skyrim. I so desperately want to hop back into this world again, but with a new region to explore, new quests, new NPCs, and followers, and all the great stuff that comes with a sequel. Of course, mods are amazing. They're still being made for Skyrim to this day, and I do go back and play many of them. And I'm not making this video to complain. Of course, I know there's plenty of other titles to enjoy in the interim. From Bethesda itself, for that Bethesda game studio style fix, Starfield is literally basically around the corner, and I'm very excited for that one. For fantasy, you have Avowed or Baldur's Gate 3, plenty of titles we don't even know about yet that are going to be coming in the next few years, so more than enough to hold me over for this long wait. But when an IP goes mostly silent for almost 12 years now, and will probably remain mostly as such until about 2026 or possibly 2027, I think it's perfectly reasonable and valid to want to know more information, especially when it's already been teased. It's out in the open. We know that it's coming after Starfield. So today's discussion is centered around the idea that there's others out there like me to ponder the question whether or not Bethesda should start teasing the Elder Scrolls 6 a little bit sooner, because it is out in the open. Also, I just wanted an excuse to talk about the Elder Scrolls because I love the Elder Scrolls. So there you go. Honesty for everybody. It's good for everyone. First, a bit of a recap of what we do know so far. The Elder Scrolls 6 was first teased in 2018. This was done alongside Starfield, and it was before the release of Fallout 76, but it was during the same event where 76 got its full reveal. And it was done this way because Bethesda wanted to let players know what was coming on the horizon for their studio. It was a roadmap for effectively the next 6 to 8 years of what we could expect from Bethesda, since their games take a long time to make. But it's also important to remember it was done this way so that fans did not feel as though Bethesda were entirely abandoning their single player roots and going in a completely new direction, that they still had these beloved games and franchises that were coming. They didn't want everybody panicking because Fallout 76 was multiplayer only. And there is actually another tease that we got. Many of you probably remember this image here that came about before the new year. It's slightly cryptic, kind of, but folks and online content creators like Camelworks have completely torn this apart and identified the meaning of most of it. Primarily the placement of the candles that are referring to the present, the past, and the future. The top candle represents the past. It's in reference to Elder Scrolls Online. It takes place in the first era, and conveniently there's the Elder Scrolls Online specific coins that are right next to it. The present is placed on Skyrim, which of course is the most recent Elder Scrolls title that we do have, and then the future placed on Hammerfell, which is where most people are speculating that the next game is going to take place. And a bit of a side tangent, it also makes sense that it would take place there. One, because it's simply an interesting location narratively for the direction Elder Scrolls is heading in. You have the Thalmor versus the Red Guards. The Empire's not a part of it because they gave it up to appease the Thalmor. One of the first modern Elder Scrolls games that the Empire doesn't control the region that the game is taking place in. That's pretty interesting. Cool conflict teased a little bit with the In My Time of Need quest between Saphira and the Red Guards. That's pretty nice, similar to Fallout 3 and Dr. Zimmer. And then, of course, it's important to remember that Elder Scrolls games primarily take place centered around these towers. It's, for those of you who don't know in Elder Scrolls lore, the towers are things, constructs that keep together reality as we know it within the Elder Scrolls universe. They've slowly been getting destroyed or shut down. We saw it with the Red Mountain in Morrowind, with the White Gold Tower in the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion, and now on the island of Balfira, which is right off the coast of technically High Rock, but it is right there. You do have another tower nearby, so we could see what happens when yet another one gets shut down, if that's the direction the story goes in. Todd Howard has also given us some insight into the development and the timing process within Bethesda Game Studios, so we know that Elder Scrolls 6 is at its furthest preparing a small vertical slice of the game, and at its very earliest, it's concepting. He mentions during an interview with Lex Friedman how once one game finishes, in this case Starfield, they move to a larger team to make a bigger prototype, but it's still a prototype at the end of the day, which means even way before alpha. Todd mentions that he's known about the setting, the big ticket items, and the start of the game for quite some time now. So possibly a little bit further than we might be expecting, but I wouldn't get your hopes up. So we've set the stage, but now the question remains with, and this is being incredibly optimistic, another, what, 2 years until the earliest we see Elder Scrolls 6? More likely, if we want to be rational, about 3 to 4 years before we get the Elder Scrolls 6. Should Todd Howard, Phil Spencer, Pete Hines, Xbox, whoever, start marketing and teasing this game a little bit, I won't even say marketing, but teasing the game a little bit earlier than they typically would, because it is out in the open and because fans are very excited about it? Or should Todd Howard try to go back to the strategy he typically likes, which we all know Todd Howard has said publicly, if he could have the smallest gap as possible between the full reveal and the release of the game as possible, that's what he would do every single time. And this is under the assumption that it would be handled a little bit more clearly or a little bit better than Starfield's was. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. There's actually a couple different angles that we can look at this. On the one hand, Todd, Bethesda, the whole team, they need to weigh out how excited fans might get by talking about the game soon versus how frustrated they might get if we are left waiting too long. If they do decide to start teasing earlier than usual, do they do it with in-engine trailers or cinematics? A lot of people tend to shy away from those because they'd rather just see what the actual game looks like. So what's too many cinematics? How often can they show in-engine trailers before fans start getting frustrated at that part of it? There's never going to be an opportunity where they please everyone. That's also important to note. But the goal is to make as many people happy as possible. Showing teases early on give fans more to speculate about. It means more videos from people like myself, more coverage, more discussion, debates, all coming from an excited fan base. But give away too much and fans will start to get a little bit tired of it, or you'll start spoiling some of the mystery and the intrigue that silence can, in a positive way, breed, which in its own way can be exciting. On the other side, the folks who are complaining or upset about the lack of announcements and information or the long gaps between reveals and teases, those are the people that are probably most excited for the project to begin with. That's why they're raising a ruckus over it in the first place, those goofballs. For that particular audience, they're most likely never going to abandon Elder Scrolls or Starfield or whatever it might be, no matter if it's 6 months, 9 months, a year between announcements, because they're just that excited for it. And Bethesda knows this, let's be perfectly clear. Starfield is an excellent example. Fans were getting pretty frustrating with the way the marketing was handled for this game, with the inconsistent teases. 1 month we'd get an Into the Starfield video, the next month nothing, and then they would just stop. Same with the Q&A videos, the developer Q&A videos, which I think people were pretty excited about and eager to learn more of that behind the scenes conversation. We got, what, 2? And then it just went away forever. People have consistently voiced online that they've been frustrated with this style of marketing or with the consistency, and yet those are probably the first ones who are going to be either picking it up day one at full price or playing the game via Xbox Game Pass. And then there's the actual, or one of the reasons why Todd Howard likes to show the game as late as possible, because that way you don't run into a situation where there's features that are now cut and don't make it into the game, or there's a Cyberpunk situation or a Watch Dogs situation that looks completely different than what the final product does. Revealing the game later can avoid that. Now, teases don't necessarily mean that we need to see a new trailer. It can be a sly remark on Twitter that's technically a tease. Or it can be similar to what Dragon Age 4 I think is doing very well. They're providing these newsletters and blog posts about milestones the game is hitting, which is a level of transparency I think a lot of gamers both are craving, but also very much appreciate and respect, seeing what's going on with some of these beloved franchises, especially when they take 4, 5+ years in order to develop. So there's good ways and bad ways that you can go completely radio silent or give more frequent teases. Quote me on this one. I think no matter what Bethesda does, people are going to find a reason to complain about the marketing of the Elder Scrolls 6. I don't think there's anything they can do that's going to make everyone unanimously happy. My personal take on it, I would rather see more frequent teases. I think that Bethesda was in the right direction when they were doing things like the Into the Starfield videos, where you had a group of team members sitting down talking about the game, whether they ran out of time or they just had to really focus on development more than recording these videos. I don't know the exact situation, but if it was planned a little bit, executed a bit better, I think fans really love that. I like the Dragon Age 4 example that was provided, where they're giving updates about, hey, we hit alpha, hey, we hit this milestone, those are fantastic, this is what we're working on next. And then finally, I actually don't mind cinematic teases or cinematic trailers. I love them. They do exactly what they set out to do. A lot of folks think they're annoying or don't appreciate them, but the intention of a cinematic trailer is to convey the mood, convey the tone, give a general feeling for what the game is. It's not meant to show the game and how it works. It's never going to be the intention of a cinematic. But I still go back and I enjoy, just for the craftsmanship, the trailers for such as Knights of the Old Republic, or a little bit closer to home, the Elder Scrolls Online. They're shot well, they're filmed well, they're entertaining, they're cool, they're badass. I like watching them, so I wouldn't mind that for the Elder Scrolls 6. How much is too much? That's a question that's going to be individual for everybody before it starts to get a little bit annoying with all the teases, but there is a balance that can be struck between proper information and little winks and little nods that we get leading up to the release of Elder Scrolls 6. And to wait up until potentially 2026 before we start getting any of that will be a very long wait indeed. I'm not going to complain if that's the direction they decide to go. Again, I think there's benefits to keeping silent on the project, but we'll see. Let me know your thoughts about all this down in the comment section below. I suspect I'm going to be in the minority and people are going to disagree with me on this one, but I want to know what you guys think. So comment below, let me know. Stealing from Jeremy Johns with that one, and as always, I hope to see you all next time. So long, everybody.